is a biscuit. Okay, we are live. Thank you everyone for joining us. We are the Koalition. I am the entertainment editor, Dana Abercrombie, and I am joined once again by Mr. Richard Bailey Jr. How are you?
I'm doing good. And yourself, Dana?
I'm breathing. That's
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 good.
a plus. That's what I can give you right now. Is breath. So we are here obviously to talk about the WandaVision episode 3 spoiler discussion. We're going to talk about some Easter eggs. We're going to talk about, everything that kind of happened during this whole amazing episode with my blurry slides. We're going to get through it. I don't know, every time I press the live it gets blurry, but we're going to power through cuz I worked on this for way too darn long. So, yay! So, this show opens up with the 70s. We are now in what would be the whole WandaVision graphics that looks very similar to Mary Tyler Moore show. This is one of those callbacks, every so far we should get used to it. Every kind of episode, there's going to be a callback to another previous TV show. And
Mhm.
for this one, this was exactly the Mary Tyler Moore show. And this, not only that, but it also had a lot of callbacks to the Brady Bunch. Not sure if everyone knows that, but this was also the Brady Bunch as well. So this right then and there, we were entering into the 60s. These are shows of the 60s. We're in full color this time, which was amazing and refreshing.
Mhm.
We got out of that. How did you feel? Not sure how you felt about the title sequence.
Oh yeah, I mean, I love that they are basically honoring a lot of the older TV shows before our time. Obviously we know a little bit about the shows, but I don't think we knew everything that was happening in the shows at that time because still relatively young. At least I definitely just watched the shows when I was a kid, but I grew up in the '80s, so definitely didn't know anything that was going on in these shows at the time.
Right, right, right.
Yeah.
So when it starts right away, we also get some of the Brady Bunch. This is really interesting here. Not sure how it's looking, but we got some of the
Yeah.
Brady Bunch, which was really interesting because if you look at the screen, right, you see the Brady Bunch regular logo. Okay. And
Yeah.
then you look up top, you see how it's in WandaVision. What's very interesting, at least for me, was that these are the shapes of hexagons and not the squares. And we all know hexagons come from either honeycombs,
Mm.
which we saw, remember the beekeeper
Yep.
from the previous episode. Honeycombs, also the shape looks like, for at least for me, the Mind Stone.
Oh yeah. Hmm. Yeah.
So I thought that that was a very interesting uh, kind of maybe Easter egg that they had. Um, so for me, that was like, ooh, this is going to be even more interesting. Now, remember, we had to call back to previous other ones. So now this time we have, remember in the previous episode, Wanda was pregnant.
Mm.
And this is like, oh my gosh, what's going on? What's happening? So now we have kind of a different set. Now, the set, very interesting enough, is the exact kind of replica of what you would see in the Brady Bunch.
Wow.
So for me, it was like, oh, this is a very interesting moment. So, anyway, as we know, Wanda is pregnant. We kind of seen it very instantaneously. Remember in the previous episode, it was like, for the children, for the
Hmm.
children. And then she's like, well, maybe I should have some kids. And poof, she was pregnant. Also, very interesting. So you have like Vision kind of in the back. He's trying to set up things now. He's about to be a dad. Um, this seems like it was really, really cute. Also, another kind of callback to Brady Bunch. As you can see, the similarities there, kind of the exact same similarities, just in color is a little bit different. So, anyway, the music starts with the episode, and it starts with we've got something cooking and it's looking good. So that's kind of the theme music, and cooking as in pregnant. You got a bun in an oven. So I thought that was really interesting. So also it was really interesting. They showed like the opening credits, how they're just living in suburban life. Remember how they're doing like the corny little bicycle riding? They're cooking in the barbecue, and they're kind of hanging out with friends.
Hmm.
So I thought that was really interesting. Another thing very interesting here was one of the stores that they went to, because he's now about to be a dad, was Wentworth's.
Yeah.
And Wentworth's is a callback. I thought it was Woolworths at first. I was like,
Yeah.
what is this? Wentworth's is a callback to one of the Marvel characters who ended up being an agent. I believe it was for Sword.
Mm.
And so I was like, wait, I think it's Deidre Wentworth. So I was like, oh, what's going on here? That's kind of interesting. So anyway, we have, like I said, the pregnancy. It's very sudden, and they all go to the shop to buy the baby stuff, which you see here, and also everything's in color, which is really nice. So then they go back to the house, and the doctor, Dr. Nielsen, as in Nielsen ratings.
Oh, really? Wow.
Mhm. Dr. Nielsen ratings. He's there and he's examining Wanda, and he's confirmed that she is definitely pregnant. And Vision is like surprised. He's like, "How does it happen?" And it was a really cute little banter where the doctor's like, "When a man loves a woman, things happen." So it was really cute. Um, and so Wanda's kind of like, "Oh, we're tickled pink or blue. We don't know what the sex is. We're happy either way." And the doctor informs them that they're 4 months pregnant, which is interesting because it was like 12 hours ago. She just kind of got pregnant. She started to
Hmm.
show.
Hmm.
So that was really interesting. Also, a very interesting part was he starts like mansplaining a lot, especially with the fruit. These little mango and a papaya and all these different things for sizes for the child. And he says that we let the little ladies keep tab on their growing babies with fruit, makes it simple for them. So that's kind of like the callback of, remember back in the day, women are slow or stupid, so we have to always explain everything.
Oh, yeah. Yep.
So that was kind of, if you look back at sitcoms back then, it was like, oh. So the doctor leaves, and he reveals that he's going on holiday to Bermuda. Bermuda is a very lovely, place, and I would love to go to Bermuda. But here's the thing: Vision is like, you know what? This is really great. This is wonderful, but can we keep it secret? They're already trying to hide their identity and who they are already. And to have a pregnancy where she's 4 months pregnant, like 12 hours ago, is gonna start a lot of questions. So the doctor's like, okay, that's fine. So then we cut to Herb is cutting the hedges, right? And so Herb right there, he's cutting the hedges. It's kind of really weird that he's, the look that he has is like this. I'm just here to play my part kind of look. So he's cutting the hedges, and he ends up creating a hole that is like the right size for the neighbor to peek through. But it seems that his trimmer got stuck in the fake wall. You could kind of see there, it just looks fake.
Yeah.
It looks like one of those stages where it's a fake wall. So Vision, he ends up going back inside the house, and he's like, this is kind of weird. I don't know what's happening. But then he comes back and he notices that Wanda is even bigger
Hmm.
than what she was minutes ago. And that her pregnancy is this is really rapid. This is really quick. And so Wanda's there. She's trying to move around, and it's very interesting because her stomach is so big. She's not used to everything yet. She ends up knocking over the fruit. And this part was interesting too, because this is when Vision uses super speed. And I went back to the other TV shows. For the love of me, I cannot remember Vision using super speed in any of the other movies. We've seen them fly. It's stated that he can move at the speed of sound.
Hmm.
So I kind of came to this conclusion ish, and this will go back to a little earlier, that he's moving kind of like Quicksilver.
Yeah.
who is Pietro. So this guy was like, oh, that's kind of weird and interesting. This is a power that, I've never seen explored before. So we go back to the nursery, and it's really beautiful. It's the butterflies, and she's trying to paint the room, which is really nice. And we see the butterflies kind of come to life. And I'm skipping a little bit. So we see the butterflies are coming to life. Now this was I was like, oh, Wanda, because she's pregnant and the hormones and everything, things are just moving. But she says, it's not me. So I'm like, well, if it ain't you, and we know that Vision doesn't have that power, it has to be the babies. At least that's my theory. Because the butterflies are coming to life. Remember, one lands on Vision's nose. So I'm like, oh, is this a way that the twin, well, don't know the twins yet, but is this a way that the child is using the powers to kind of communicate? And just, it's very interesting to me. And I'm like, is the child getting the same powers as Wanda? So I'm like, oh. So we kind of move on where Vision is trying to change a diaper. And you don't really think of anything at first because you're like, he's a new dad. He's trying to change a diaper and he's using a doll. But it's very interesting that he's using the same kind of doll that was from the Brady Bunch with Cindy. Cindy was attached to this doll baby for like a whole episode or so. Maybe a whole season. I'm not sure. I have to ask my mom. Mom helped. So she's attached to this doll. So I'm like, this is a very interesting callback. I love how they did it. And also, if you look here, the can of paint that they use, this is, I think it says Simser. The paint, Simser, is the name of the storyboard artist for WandaVision.
Wow.
So it's kind of a really nice way that they honored him. I'm like, this is really cool. I like how they did this. This is like, there's so many different things that's, coming ahead, but I kind of really liked how they did that. So we move on to now, this is a really beautiful scene where they're discussing names for the children. And Vision wants Billy because he loves William Shakespeare. This is a man of words. And Wanda, however, remember, she wants to be an all-American girl in an all-American life with an all-American family. So she likes the name Tommy. So I'm like, oh. So this is really sweet. So they end up kind of debating of what they're going to do. And then Wanda's like, yeah, you know what? Maybe we'll just end up having a girl anyway. And during this time, Vision is like, he's a computer, walking computer, basically. And he's calculating how fast, the child is going to come. Because you see, Wanda just keeps growing and growing in size. And he's like, oh, it's 3 days away. I tried to find some kind of significance to the number 3, and I didn't get any. So if there's anything that you would know, number 3, let us know. So, like I said, everything is kind of going a little haywire because Wanda starts getting contractions. And they're called Braxton Hicks contractions. It's an actual real contraction thing. I was like, who's Braxton Hicks? Is that a character? It's not. So this ends up causing all the electricity in the water in the kitchen to go completely haywire. And then it gets knocked out in the whole block. Now this is a really cute little moment where like the neighbor, I think it was Phil, where his wife is Dottie. And remember Dottie from the previous episode, who I think was the head of the committee. And anyway, she's like, do these earrings make me look fat? And she's like, right before he can answer, the whole power goes out. So that's really good. Cute. That's like a classic TV sitcom thing.
Yeah.
So during this time, Wanda's kind of wondering, because she's having these fake contractions, what will happen when she actually has to give birth? And, will she like set the whole town ablaze or whatever will end up happening? She's worried about drawing attention to people discovering her secret. And Vision kind of agrees, but says there's more to it than that. And then he starts remembering. Remember how we have these little glips where people are like, huh. So he starts remembering the dinner that they had with Mr. and Mrs. Hart. Remember the boss. Mm-hmm. And he's also remembering Herb who is cutting the hedges, he's acting all weird. And then he's like, I think something's wrong here, Wanda. What's going on, Wanda? And then just like that, a quick edit, it's sudden, it's jarring, it's a cut, and episode goes back to Vision saying, "Yep, everything's gonna be fine, okie dokie," and again, kind of an erase of that moment, a rewind, as we've seen before, which is much different than when we've seen with the beekeeper. Remember, Wanda was like, "No."
Yep.
Okay, so I'm not sure how did you feel about that moment.
Well, that absolutely stood out. The thing about the show is that I'm very curious to see what's going to happen moving forward, because I have some confusion over exactly who was in control of everything that's going on. It felt in the last episode when Wanda said no, that she was in control of that moment and she prevented it from progressing past,
Mm-hmm.
into dangerous territory. And in this moment here, it's like, yes, Vision all of a sudden became self-aware that something is wrong, but then decided to stop, play along, and continue, acting as if nothing's going on. So I'm very curious to know who is controlling things, whether it's actually Wanda and Vision, or if it's another entity. Because we've already seen at the end of the first episode, somebody was watching the screen. So
Mm-hmm.
that's why I'm curious to know where they're going with this. But yeah, I definitely noticed that moment, and they wanted the fans to notice it because it rewinded right back to before he said something's wrong, Wanda. So
Mm-hmm.
clearly that was designed to get people to really, question what's going on, and I thought it was very well done.
Right.
So
I,
we'll see what happens.
I agree completely. So then, after the whole cut, they go back to this happy family moment where he admits, Vision admits that he's anxious, and he's kind of wondering if the baby will be a human or a synthoid,
Mhm.
or kind of a mix of both. Don't know what's going to happen. So then Wanda starts having contractions again, and this time it's for real. And Vision ends up rising into the air, right? Like we've seen previous movies. And Wanda, I believe she rises too. And this is when I'm like, oh my God, are they going to fight? What's going on? But she's able to just calm him down through some nice breathing episodes. And then it starts raining in the living room. And that's when she says, "Oh, my water just broke." So we
Yeah.
had like a really cute little tension, followed by like sweetness, followed by, for me, I thought it was tension again because I was ready for like Civil War. We've kind of seen them battle each other during Civil War, but they never hurt each other. It was all out of love. And so then we had a nice little moment where it kind of broke the tension with the rain and the I think my water just broke. Now, this is when we get to a commercial break. Remember, this is a show within a show.
Mhm.
And so this is when we see a stressed out mom. She's a hot mess, and she has two kids, just like Wanda and Vision. And you have the soccer ball is in her breakfast. The dog is peeing on the floor. There's a burnt cake. The blender is exploding. And it says, "Do you need a break?" And that's the voiceover. And the ad cuts to the mom in a nice idyllic balcony, and she's being fanned by the servants. And it says an ad for a bubble bath called Hydra Soak. And it says, "When you want to get away, but you don't want to go anywhere." Hmm. What does that mean? Now, we don't know who's controlling this situation, but we do remember back during, what was it, Endgame. Remember when she was like, I remember when Hawkeye, it was her and Hawkeye looking over the lake, and this is after Iron Man had died, and this was during the funeral, and he was like, "Do you think they know? What we did, that we made it through?" And she was like, "They know. I feel that they know." And this is like a moment where I felt that she was completely spent. She lost the love of her life. Remember, she's thinking probably about all of the other losses that she had in her life. Remember, her parents are dead. Pietro is dead. And she kind of doesn't have anyone Remember, everyone is paired off where they have someone. Hawkeye at least has his family, even though Natasha's dead. He
Hmm.
has someone. And this, to me, would be an idyllic time where you just want to escape.
Yeah.
So I'm
Hmm.
not sure how you feel.
Yeah, I would think that because we already know in the real world, in reality, Vision is no longer here.
Mhm.
So this all feels like a dream for Wanda. Um, I know she dreamed that she would have a life like this, where she had
Mhm.
Vision and she had kids. So this could be her form of escape. But the reality is that it's not like that in the current timeline. So I'm curious to see how they tell this story about how everything gets when it starts to update to what's actually happening right now.
Mhm.
Um, but yeah, the use of the commercials is very very smart.
Mhm.
Um, it's been smart since the beginning of this show because these are the clues to let you know, give you an idea as to what's going on.
Right.
Um, so Hydra, yeah, hail Hydra, they definitely evolved.
Now, here's a very interesting thing. Now it says Hydra Soak. This is the luxurious bath powder. Find the goddess within, and we all know about the power of her. But that wasn't like when you look at it, you're like, it's a soap ad for Hydra, and
Yeah,
we've seen the other commercials with Hydra, right? Where we've seen Strucker Watch,
yep,
and we saw the toaster with the blinking with the that sounded like the bomb that never went off and everything was in red. Remember that one?
yeah,
From Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., he was the runner of it along with Nick Fury. And this is when he says, I would have figured it out a long time ago if it wasn't for the mind controlled soap.
wow,
Yeah? Wait, what? The blue soap everyone uses, Hydra loads it up with chemicals. It seeps into our bloodstream, implants false memories into our brains. They want us to believe it's a magical place. But don't worry, I'm clear. I make my own soap now.
mm,
Black
wow,
Jesus. That was like an
that's it.
aha moment.
That's it. Yeah, that's
There
it.
you go. So I'm like, wait, this is a soap that you use to brainwash people. What happened to Winter Soldier?
He was brainwashed.
By who?
Hydra.
There you go.
Yeah,
So I'm like, wait a second. This could blow. I could now again, this is a theory. I don't know. I could be talking out of my behind right now. But I'm like, wait a second. He was brainwashed by Hydra. There's Hydra soap that's brainwashed. Who's to say that Wanda is here on her own will?
yeah.
Wanda is known for signing up for experiments.
That and they never answered the question of the last episode when somebody was asking Wanda, "What are they doing to you?" They didn't reveal who that person was.
Hmm.
So yeah, it kind of feels like that way.
So I was like, oh snap, something's happening. I don't know, but we gonna find out. So we go back to the commercial break, right? And we're back in the living room. And Wanda and Vision are hiding under a table because it's raining all over the place, and Wanda's trying to dry everything out. What a nice big old gust of wind. Right? And Vision, he's trying to call Dr. Nielsen, but the phone lines are down because, she just knocked out power to everything.
Hmm.
And he hopes to get there before the doctor goes on holiday. Remember, he's going to Bermuda. And when Wanda asks how the physician can go away at the time like this, he points out that the baby is technically 9 months early. So he,
Yeah,
in his mind, he's free to do whatever he wants for the next 9 months. However, Vision, like in a panic, he runs out the door at, again, super speed,
yep,
like Pietro. So Wanda's having the contractions, and all of a sudden there's a bird. And I'm like, what is there a bird? There's a bird noise is coming from the nursery.
the store.
But right, but before she's able to check it out, here comes. Wait, no. Before she's able to check it out, the doorbell rings, right?
Hmm.
And she's trying to hide. This is a classic TV stunt where she's trying to hide the baby bump with like fruit, holding a jacket,
Yep.
anything that can distract her about people asking about what's going on with your tum tum. Why are you 9 months pregnant all of a sudden? So she decides to hide behind a bowl of fruit. This goes for any TV show. There were plenty of actresses that we didn't know was pregnant in real life, and they hit it on the TV show really well when they didn't write it into the show itself. So I thought that was just like a nice little cool callback to everything that is TV.
Yeah.
So then all of a sudden, here comes Geraldine. Geraldine is there, and she's looking for a bucket because her whole house got flooded as well. The pipes kind of burst, and Wanda's trying to go into the kitchen to grab the bucket, but then we have another contraction. And with the contraction, she had a coat on. It's now a rain jacket, and then it turns into a fur coat, and then all of a sudden, a stalk comes. And the stalk is entering. I keep saying stalk when it's a stork,
Yeah.
but a stork enters the living room as Geraldine is trying to leave. So now Wanda, who's hiding her bump with the bowl of fruit, is trying to distract her by asking, "What's going on with your new temporary job?" Right? And so she's trying to magic the bird away, and the bird is not going away. She can't control the bird, which to me means she's not the one who brought the bird there. Maybe it is the children's that's in her tum-tum. So they start talking about work, and the stork, he's going at it. He's, walking all over, and Wanda keeps trying to, distract Geraldine, and then it starts chirping or whatever, it's squawking, whatever bird noises that the stork is making, and that's when she's like, "Oh, it's the ice maker in the refrigerator," and it's the 70s. They have ice makers back then. And it's working because Geraldine is not noticing that the stork is sitting there grabbing at her trousers and her beak. And I'm not sure if this is like she's purposely avoiding the fact that there is a stork, eating at her leg. So she starts to explain that she's got a promotion at work. And then she wanders into the other spare room looking for office supplies. She's very nosy. And it kind of seems like she doesn't know her purpose of what she's doing there because she's just wandering and talking at this point. And she's really surprised to see it filmed with the baby gear. But she doesn't notice that it's the stalk is there as well. Stork. I keep saying stalk. And so what happens is the stork ends up returning to its original place in the painting, which is very interesting. So Wanda ends up dropping. She's holding like the vase again, and she drops it because another contraction is happening, and that's when the baby is coming. It's very interesting. Now, here we go back to Dr. Nelson ratings, where his car is just broken down. Remember, he's trying to go to Bermuda with his wife. The car just unexplainably, it doesn't work, and that's when he's saying, "Small town, you can't leave," or something to that effect, which kind of indicates that they're stuck there.
Yep.
Because they're trapped there. Not sure how you felt about that one.
That's exactly how I felt about that. Because they have a good way of emphasizing these lines when you say something, and then Vision looks at them weird, like, so yeah.
So he puts the doctor on his back, and they start running again at super speed, which, again, Pietro. So Geraldine ends up helping Wanda. And she's sitting there having the contractions, and she's trying to help her. But the interior of the house kind of turns into something out of The Exorcist. There's like a weird telekinetic scene.
Yeah.
That happens. And so the first baby arrives, which is a boy. But sadly, Vision and the doctor get there too late to see the birth. And Geraldine kind of takes over. And then he makes like a really snide remark that, is manly again. And anyway, Geraldine, they think everything is done and over with. So Geraldine takes the doctor into the kitchen, and Vision, because they're able to go away, Vision is able to turn back into his natural self. And that's when he meets Tommy. And it's a very beautiful moment.
Yeah.
And then Wanda's contractions all of a sudden start again. And they're like, what's going on? She's freaking out. And she gives birth to another baby boy. You know, it's the classic, we didn't know you had 2 kids. Oh
Mhm.
my gosh, kind of thing. And so, like I said, it's another baby boy. And the doctor is thanking Geraldine for helping because Geraldine is like, you know, she's right in it. The doctor is like, but he's helping. And, you know, he's like, oh, thank you. And then he starts getting really patronizing. And he's like, oh, you might have what it takes to be a nurse. And I'm like, what? And then she's like, what? And even Wanda's a little bit like, what? So Vision ends up walking the doctor home so that he can go into a vacation. And he's like, I just, you know, forget it. I'm not going anywhere. And this is kind of when, nope, I missed up the line. This is when he has the line, I don't think we'll get away after all. Small towns, you know, hard to escape.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
Vision is kind of like, huh? So I'm not sure how you felt about that scene.
yeah, yeah. I mean, that a lot of this stuff stands out when something is said. It just gives you the impression that this is something that you need to remember that it was said, because it's giving you, like, everything is giving you a clue as to what's actually happening in this universe. So yeah, I definitely felt that when he said it, and then of course the reaction that Vision had. It pretty much says, okay, because he was puzzled. But yeah, there was a couple other things that happened right after that you're about to get into.
Mm-hmm. So then, this is like the big aha moment where I was like really angry that you guys didn't just get the first 3 episodes. I'm like, this is the perfect send off. This is how you get people excited.
Yeah.
Like they did a really great job with episode 1 and 2, but come on now.
Mm-hmm.
So then Vision sees Agnes and Herb. They just gossiping right there by that same wall with the fake thing and the cut and hedges, and they just gossiping. And you know when you could feel like somebody's talking about you. So it feels like Vision. You know, Vision feels like, oh, they talking about me. What's going on? So he's like, oh, you know how you're like trying to be friendly and like the nice neighbor, even though you know your neighbors are just gossiping about you. So he's like, oh, how's the power cut? How's everything going? And Agnes is like, oh, Ralph looks better in the dark. Ralph is the husband that we never see, but we heard about from the previous episode.
Mm-hmm.
So she says, oh, I'm not complaining. And then she also asks, this is when things get really creepy and weird. So she's asked, like, is Geraldine out in there with Wanda? And he's not thinking anything of it. You know, this is the nice neighbor who came and helped us.
Yeah.
So then all of a sudden it cuts too. Then it cuts back and forth. It's beautiful. We could feel the tension. So Wanda's telling Geraldine all of a sudden, she's looking at her little babies, her little goobers, and her little hands. And she's like, oh my gosh, they're so precious. And then she remembers. And she says, I was a twin as well.
Yep.
And she said, I had a brother. His name was Pietro. And this is like the point where I'm like crying, because this is the first time that we heard Wanda bring up Pietro. Now, this is with several movies that passed since he died. He died in Ultron. It was Ultron. He died in Ultron. He was killed by Ultron. He was shot to death. And his last words was to Hawkeye, I bet you didn't see that coming. And then he dropped down dead. And that's when Wanda was like, I can feel you dead. And that's when, like, for me, I felt that was the moment when she truly came into her powers.
Yeah.
Which, if you look at any of the kind of mutants or X-Men, it's either a point of puberty or a point of great pain and suffering. Remember back with the very first X-Men movie? Where Magneto, he was at the, it was during the Holocaust, where I think I don't know if it was Auschwitz, but remember they separated him from his parents, and it was that traumatizing moment, and he was able to bend the gates, and then he just kind of fell down with exhaustion.
Yeah, I remember that. Mm-hmm.
So to me, it was like a callback to when Pietro died and Wanda felt him dead, and she started screaming and she dropped to her knees and all the power came shooting out of her. And that's when she kind of just eviscerated everything. And that's when she finally walked up to Ultron and was like, you know, she literally ripped out the heart of Ultron, which was like, this is my pain, feel my pain. So it was like, oh my God. So that was like, whoa. And then she starts singing to the babies in Sokovian, which is where she's from, which is not a real place, by the way. You know. So then he says, not he. This is a very interesting part. This is when Geraldine, well, Geraldine does what Geraldine does. He says he was killed by Ultron, wasn't she? And then that's when Wanda looks at her, and was like, "Bitch, what?" And she was like, "No." She was like, "What did you say?" And she's like, "Oh, oh, I didn't screwed up now. I didn't screwed up." And so it cuts really quickly where they're back outside, where Herb points out that Geraldine is brand new to town. And Agnes starts saying she has no family, she has no husband. The child ain't even got a home.
Mm-hmm.
Well, you're like, wait, what? And then that's when Wanda, it cuts back again. Wanda's like, what did you just say to me? And Geraldine is like, oh, oh, I done screwed up now. And she's humming and a humming and a humming and the whole thing about the Holtron question. And she was like, I should just go. But before Geraldine leaves, as you see on the screen, Wanda spots her necklace. See the necklace there?
Mm-hmm.
That is the same logo that we saw on Sword.
Oh, whoa.
Everything that's Sword.
Yep.
Remember, we had the beekeeper. He was Sword. Remember when she found the helicopter?
Yep.
That had a Sword logo, which kind of made me to believe that they tried to fly through, but it shrunk and became like a toy.
That's
which makes me wonder what happened to the man inside. It's like, ooh. So anyway, and then Sword. Remember, we saw Sword in the first episode when it was the mid credits or after credits, and it was like the people who were controlling everything and kind of knew what was going on. Sword logo. Remember, I told you it was sentient. They changed it. It's sentient weapons. So it's basically, remember how I explained? It's an organization that controls sentience, which would be the people with power, and they use them kind of as weapons, which goes back to, remember in Civil War?
Mm-hmm.
Remember when the Accords?
Yep.
Remember they wanted them to register what they are and the powers, and that led to the big fallout between Iron Man and Captain America.
Mm-hmm. I do remember that.
Remember that? And remember when I think don't quote me on the actor. I can't remember the actor, but he was the guy who was above Nick Fury, and he was like, what happens if we lose a Hulk? He has the power to basically eviscerate everything.
Mm-hmm.
And he's like, he wanted to have that control. And we all know that Wanda is the strongest so far of all of the Avengers. So you kind of want Wanda and her powers to be accounted for so people know where she's at. Mm. Because remember, back during the Sokovia, remember when Zemo was being killed? Well, Zemo killed himself. Remember he pulled the pen to explode the bomb? And that's when Captain America was going to die because he couldn't block it. And that's when Wanda went and was able to use her powers to kind of compress the bomb. But she was wonky at that time, and she lost it, and she ended up accidentally blowing up the building, which killed a bunch of Wakandians. So that, I think, they would want something like that under control, which also reminds me of, remember, her powers were kind of wonky, but it wasn't until Pietro died that she kind of was, I don't want to say have full control, but they fully came into being.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I could be wrong. Not sure how you felt about that.
No, that's 100% right.
Okay.
Yeah.
So then, all of a sudden, they were saying, Wanda asked, what do they mean when they say she has no home? Like, why are you just randomly up in the neighborhood? And Herb says, she came here because we're all, and then he tries to finish the sentence, kind of like a glitch in the system again, but he's unable to get, anything further out. And then switch back to Wanda and Geraldine, which we all know is not Geraldine. I have a little theory on that one later on. But she recognizes the necklace, which is a sword symbol, which means to me that she is aware of what's going on the outside. She's aware of what the necklace, what that means. So whether or not Wanda was working for them, or whether or not Wanda knows that maybe she's on the run and she built this bubble, don't know. But she is fully aware of what sword is. And she is fully aware of what their logo looks like. So, then Herb tries to explain again what's going on. Remember, cut back and forth. And Agnes tells him to stop. Just stop. And they leave in a hurry, like, oh, bye. Remember, she puts on a happy face? Yep. And she goes off with her bicycle, which is very interesting. Bicycle. Some people are saying that the bicycle kind of resembles the Wicked Witch of the West, which we all know, if you read the comics, Agnes Harkness, is a witch.
Yeah.
So, call back from Wizard of Oz. Anyway, so she just randomly like, boop, gotta go. And so after that, Herb just kind of returns to trimming the hedge, which is dead at this point. He trimmed it to death. And he's like, I'll catch you on the flip side. This is like a 70s saying, flip side or whatever. And so back in the house, Vision asks, like, where's Geraldine? Because we just had this conversation. He's like, weird, what's going on? It's kind of weird. And Wanda was like, oh, no, she just had to rush home, sweetie. I don't know what happened. But then all of a sudden, the whole ratio aspect morphs into like full-blown widescreen, modern day, how we watch our movies and TV shows. And we see a modern version of Welcome to Westville sign, which means to me that Westville in the show itself is a real place that maybe Sword or whomever has her in here or herself is mimicking this town.
Yep.
Which could mean that she moved there in reality and she was rejected in reality, and so she made a place where they would accept her. Don't know. And this is when Geraldine is literally just like thrown out. It's like beep. She tosses her out. And it's a force field that she's tossed out of. And it looks like a distorted television picture. When you have like the white noise, like the crackling, and it's like the white, it looks like the snow. That is literally what it looks like when she's tossed out.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh, isn't that like the force field that we've seen before? Previously, kind of looked. We had another one that looked kind of like Doctor Strange force field, and then we had another one that kind of looked like Wanda's. But this is a full blown like TV force field looking thing. And now we see it's Geraldine. She's still dressed in the 70s. That afro is everything. That blue makeup is just fantastic. Whomever's doing the costuming, yay. So she's like lying. She's getting spit out. She falls down. And it kind of seems like she's waking up out of a dream herself. And she's lying on the grass, which Daydream Believer by the Monkees starts playing as like the soundtrack. And those who don't know, Daydream Believer and the Homecoming Queen is about a guy who got the girl of his dreams. He's working really hard, but it's not working, and he's trying to convince her, baby, come back.
Yeah.
And it's really interesting that it's Daydream Believer. So it's something that he wants to believe in, even though this is a daydream, which you kind of see what's going on with Wanda. So Geraldine, who we all know is Monica, by the way, the child from Captain Marvel. Had to watch that again. Jesus. Anyway, so all of a sudden, she's surrounded by the government agents, and we see the agents are who? Their Sword. So she's surrounded by the government agents. I think they're Sword. Yeah, they're Sword. She's surrounded by the government agents, and the cameras pan out, and we see military buildings and floodlights. It kind of looks like something out of Close Encounter from Third Kind. Remember that one?
Yeah, I do remember that.
So it looks like that. And then all of a sudden we get like a huge like as like the crackling and the TV force field is still popping and going. It says please stand by, which I'm not sure if you remember. Please stand by used to be a call from what was that TV show? Twilight Zone.
Oh yeah.
I believe it was the Twilight Zone. I remember it more from the recent Twilight Zones than from the other ones. And
Yeah.
also, was it Hitchcock? I want to say Hitchcock, but I definitely remember "Please Stand By" would come from another classic TV show. So
Yeah, I think
this,
the big thing with Hitchcock was that silhouette.
oh, that's right. It just said,
Yeah.
so then "Please Stand By" would have to be
Yeah. Yeah.
probably from Twilight. I really feel like it's Twilight Zone, like the original ones, not the modern day one. I
Yeah.
could be no, which is the one that went that was Twilight Zone.
That was
So
Twilight Zone.
okay, yay! My memory is still intact. I'm happy. So that was episode 3 in a nutshell. So, yay! How do you feel about that one?
Well, there's definitely a lot to unpack in this episode.
Mhm.
First and foremost, I do like that now color is prominently in the show. It looked great. You know, everything that I saw with the range of colors looked fantastic. But the questions asked about who was in control, so on and so forth, I really think I have to agree with what you said. This episode did a very good job of making you curious as to what's going to happen next. Now, the first 2 episodes were great, but one thing that I did say about this show from the last time we recorded is that I felt like there are a lot of shows you watch on TV, depending on what happens on whatever episode, they do a really good job of making you anticipate, well, I can't wait to see what happens next week. This episode made me feel that. So I was very glad to see that, because now there's a lot of questions. In terms of what happened, I know that time is accelerating very quickly, as we saw how Wanda, at the beginning of the episode, she's pregnant, and at the end of the episode, she already has given birth to the twins. So, I mean, my guess is that the next episode is going to be in the 80s, I guess.
Yes, we're in the 70s. It's going to be 80s.
Yeah. Okay. So, I'm curious to see what that's going to look like in terms of the show interests, and of course, I would imagine the kids are going to be a little bit older now than when they were in this last episode. So I look forward to seeing that. But I have a lot of questions in this episode just about what is actually going on here. I mean, it was alluded to multiple times that people know things are not right here in this environment. And it felt like with the whole situation with Geraldine, I mean, I instantly thought to myself when she ended up in this other, I mean, to me, the final scene, wait, can you still see me?
I can see you. No, I cannot. You're not there. I can hear you though.
That's very weird. Yeah, there's an issue with my monitor. All of a sudden, it just went out. So I'll try to fix that. But if you can hear me, that's all that matters.
Yeah, I can hear you.
So I feel like with the whole situation with Geraldine and how she just disappeared, much like I am disappeared right now.
It's the magic act from episode 1 or 2.
That's it. That's what it has to be.
It's the magic act.
The whole thing with her disappearing and going into, I mean, when I saw that, I instantly thought, well, she's now in the current timeline of whatever's happening right at this moment in time. But I initially thought when she was in there, how everybody alluded to the fact that she was new and she's here for a reason. I thought her whole purpose coming there was to try and let Wanda and Vision know something is up.
Right.
And then because if you think about when she had the interaction with Wanda and she revealed, yes, about knowing about what happened to her brother, I don't think if someone is trying to conceal the past, they wouldn't be so forthcoming to remember this stuff and then share it with you as openly as she did. So I kind of feel like she was trying to help her remember, but because of the fact that she has that sword necklace, Wanda does not trust her, doesn't trust whatever she was saying. So Wanda probably, much like she said no in episode 2 when she saw that beekeeper, she just whatever she got her out of there immediately. However she did it, she got her out of there immediately.
Right.
So I'm very curious to get an understanding as to what is going on in this particular universe. I feel like Wanda and Vision know something is up, but they're playing along. But I don't really think that it's clear to me why they're playing along, because it's not really clear what's a threat in this particular instance. And the other question that I have, which is a question that I'm pretty sure that you can answer, is does this show take place immediately after the last Avengers movie, or does it take place in a timeline between the last 2 movies?
No darn clue.
Okay, all right.
No clue whatsoever. I know it takes place after the events of Endgame, but how far after the events? No clue.
Okay, all right. Because that's what I keep going back to. As it would be helpful to know the timeline, and I'm sure we'll get answers to this as we start to see more episodes. But I think the timeline, it is confusing to know exactly when this is taking place. We already know that Vision is no longer here in the current world. So what happened?
Is he though? I have a theory on that. Is he though?
Well, that's what they want you to believe, right? That he is no longer here. So we'll have to discuss that. I am going to have a question later as well, not related to this particular show, but it's in the same universe. So I'm gonna save that question for later. But yeah, how about you? Let me know what your thoughts are.
Okay. Well, I have a couple of theories. Theories. Okay. So here's the thing, and I've gotten into full-blown arguments with this. And again, this is just a theory. I don't know anything. It could be wrong. I'm okay with it being wrong. Vision would have died technically 3 times. People forget in Age of Ultron, when Ultron attacked him, when he was kind of still in the internet phase.
Yeah.
When he was Jarvis. Remember that? And that's when Ultron kind of awoke. And Jarvis was saying, you're malfunctioning. You have to shut down. You're malfunctioning. And that's when he attacked Jarvis. And Jarvis, was all broken up. We couldn't find him, which led to Tony, Bruce, and Thor. Remember, it was the body that was originally supposed to be Ultron's. They used that body, and they decided to put Vision in that body. Well, Jarvis and Vision's body. That was meant for Ultron. That's why he kept saying, I'm the son of Ultron. And he didn't come to life until Thor used his hammer as kind of the lightning to awaken him. Right?
Mm-hmm.
Then we have the second time that we all know, which is when Wanda had to kill him and take the Mind Stone out. And then we know the third time was when Thanos came and was like, if I could turn back time. And then he turned back the time and then killed him again, which is very interesting that the show uses time for this whole show, because Wanda and Vision were affected heavily by time. Even when you go back to Infinity War, remember she kept saying, I wish we would have more time together.
Mm-hmm.
So to me, that was like very interesting. But here's what people don't remember. And I think that Marvel is very clever on how they do this. Remember during Endgame, when they brought Vision after being attacked in Infinity War, they brought him to Wakanda because they knew that their technology was there that could save Vision.
Yeah.
And that's when they brought him to Shuri. Brought him to Shuri. And Shuri was like, making fun of them basically for like their basic technology, and was calling Bruce, not dumb, but you're kind of slow. You could have just did this and this and this. And the whole goal at that time was to upload Vision's consciousness, right? And put it in a new body. And she was working on this heavily. And then that's when later on, remember, she was upstairs and Wanda was with her and him the entire time, saying, "You could do this. I believe in you." And that's when she got attacked. Remember when they opened the gate?
Yeah.
Or the portal thingy, or whatever you want to call it, like their protection dome, and they got attacked. And Shuri was doing and working really quickly, and she made sure that she shut down the computer. She was working real quick, and that's when her bodyguard got killed. And she was doodling and daddling, and she made sure she closed everything and she shut it down. And that's when Wanda came down and was like, she's not alone. And we're all fighting, and we had like all the women fighting, and it was like a yay moment. And that's when Vision kind of came down as well. I believe that time was when Shuri uploaded him into the computer system, the Wakandan internet. I don't know. But I think that she saved his consciousness there.
Hmm.
And that's when, after that, that's when Thanos won in that movie. He got the glove, he did the snappy snap, and that's when Vision was already dead. So she killed the Mind Stone. He rewound it. All he needed was the Mind Stone. He don't give a flying fart about his consciousness. I don't. He's a robot. What you gonna do? I need the stone. So I think that she was able. You know how you make a copy of something, and they're able to be in two things at once when you make that copy.
Yep.
Like a file. Like I can put it in one note and in one computer and in another computer. I think she was able to make a copy. And I think when he took the Mind Stone out of Vision, yeah, he may have killed Vision, but he didn't kill the conscious that is Vision, because Shuri already downloaded it. And she made sure she shut down the computer. But during that time, nobody could say anything because Thanos did this. And remember who got dusted? Wanda. And then Vision was over dead. So Wanda didn't know at that point because she was dusted. Who was also dusted? Shuri. So they were both dusted during that time. So I believe, this is just my theory, I'm okay with being wrong, that scene will have a pivotal part to play in this, where I think his consciousness is there, is alive and well. Vision's body may not be, and that may be part of the illusion, but I think maybe they kind of uploaded his conscious in their computer, and she was able to build from there. I don't know, but I will fight to this day. Vision is not dead.
Okay, so I'm gonna say right now that theory is probably probably
Totally
correct,
wrong.
because after you said that, all of a sudden my screen was restored. So maybe there is some truth to what you said. Only I think you made a lot of good points. The only thing that I would also add is that, much like you said, Marvel has done a very good job of trying to keep you guessing, because one thing that we have been talking about with this show, and you alluded to already, is that this is supposed to lead into Doctor Strange, the Multiverse of Madness. But the one thing that I also think we didn't really mention yet, because it has to deal with time, we didn't mention anything about Ant-Man. Because when you talked about that helicopter and the fact that the helicopter could have shrunk, I instantly thought to myself, yes, where did I see a other movie where somebody was able to manipulate the size and travel through time? And I instantly thought of Ant-Man. So I would not be surprised if some of that is also connected to this as well, since Ant-Man is the whole reason why the Avengers were able to eventually defeat Thanos in the last movie. So that might be connected in some way also. But for the most part, everything you said, I think is spot on, and probably the direction they're going to take things, because it just there's a lot to keep people guessing.
Right.
And for the fans that watch every single Marvel movie and every single TV show, I have to say that I applaud Marvel because they put all of these Easter eggs in the show, which makes you want to go back and see where did that come from, much like you did with the presentation of the slides. Like all of those references to the 70s and stuff like
Mhm.
that. When I saw the episode, I just saw the episode. I had in my mind, where did I see this from? But I didn't really do the research to figure out where did it come from. So when I saw you have the slides, I said, this is excellent because it gives reference to anyone that might not understand the context of why they use certain things. So it's a very, very well put together show. I could tell they put a lot of time into this stuff.
Mhm.
So whatever the end result is in terms of where they're going, I have faith it's going to be great. But yeah, it's a lot to keep you guessing as to what the direction is and who is involved and what other characters are involved. But I fully expect to see other characters.
Right.
If they don't show up in the actual show, they will be referenced. But I
Mhm.
would not be surprised if we see some other characters show up in this show as we get closer to what's actually happening in this universe that they're in the current time.
Right. Well, in case we kind of like missed anything, there are some facts that I could quickly go over. The 70s themes. Remember, I said it was Brady Bunch, and I said that it was also Mary Tyler Moore. It was
Yeah.
also some Laverne and Shirley. So that was cute. I know that there was the Glamorous magazine that Wanda was reading in the opening credits
Mhm.
was a callback to episode 1 when Agnes was, remember, she was sharing tips from the same publication.
Mhm.
Like I stated with the whole Whitworth department store, that was also in episode 2 as well. And that is Deidre Whitworth, who is the real name is Superior, and she's a supervillain
Yeah.
who wanted to eliminate all men. Ooh. So don't know the connection there. Hope that's not what's really happening there. So that part was really interesting. Also, there was a bunch of Marvel references, like I stated before. Their living room was reminiscent of old test car designs. I remember I said Dr. Nilsson was from Nilsson's Ratings, which is like they've been using since the 50s.
Mm.
So that's kind of
Wow.
cute that they use that. Where they are interesting. The episode writer is Megan McDonnell, who is also writing the screenplay for Captain Marvel 2, which will
Oh.
feature Monica.
So is
mhm.
there a possibility that this scene will be further expanded upon in that movie, or
I believe, because remember, there's different things that's happening at once. There's Monica is going to be a part of Captain Marvel 2. Monica also ends up teaming up with what's the child's name? Miss Marvel.
yeah, Miss Marvel?
Who's getting their own TV show, which I hope does not look like something out of CW.
Yeah.
Thoughts and prayers for that one, because the costuming is very interesting.
Yeah.
For that. Then so we have that. Remember when you mentioned Ant-Man? Ant-Man 3 is going to be called Ant-Man Quantumanium.
Yes.
Quantumanium. So that's an interesting, yeah.
I personally cannot wait for that because I know who also is the villain in that one.
Well, yeah, that's the one with King.
Yeah.
Is it King?
Yep.
Yeah. Who is the actor from Lovecraft County?
Yes. Yes.
So he's going to be in it. Then it was really interesting during the whole artificial world, the TV world. There's a part of the slogan, part of the Westview sign that says "Home is where you make it," which, looking back on it, kind of seems like, oh, this is really interesting. How we're kind of putting that in as well. So then a little bit for the Easter eggs, not to more. They remember there was the pineapple slices. There was some pineapple slices. Remember the fruit situation?
Yeah.
So there was some pineapple slices. This pineapple slices was a callback from episode 1. Remember when they was trying to make dinner for Mr. Hart?
Yep.
And Agnes came over very conveniently with all these different foods, and one of them was the pineapple. So this I thought was very interesting. I think what's days for them is decades for us.
Okay.
So remember, that episode was the 50s, and we saw it again in the 70s.
Mm-hmm.
So again, I don't know how time plays a part in this. We already know time is not going to be very linear. It's not what we know because of the whole twin situation in the pregnancy. So that was interesting, at least to me. And it seems that every time that there is something that's being questioned or something is trying to get information to Wanda, she ends up manipulating the reality.
Yep.
And either she's vocal about it or she's not. But everything's changing.
Because this is the dream that she wanted, to have a life with Vision, to have the kids and, family, etc. But we already know, because her and Vision have powers, they are heroes. There is always trouble that must be dealt with. Mm-hmm. So that is the reality of the situation. Mm-hmm. And I'm very curious to see how they're going to transition into that phase once they receive what's actually going on in the world.
And then there's also a part where it says that remember they're kind of talking about the children, the twins, or the one child. They don't know that it's twins yet.
Yeah.
And she's kind of like a little nervous and anxious. And Vision says, if he's anything like his mother, Billy will be perfect.
Yep.
And that is a nod to the comics, because in the comic version, Billy ends up having abilities that Wanda has, which is why the butterflies were moving and the stalk came to life.
Oh, okay.
So
what about Tommy? Is Tommy also in the comic?
Tommy has super speed, like Pietro, the brother.
Ah, okay.
And remember, Tommy is born before Billy because technically he's faster.
Yeah.
So, boop-de-doop.
Okay.
So that's really interesting there. And then, like I said, there was the whole point with the commercial, escape to the world of your own, when your problems float away. That's another callback to Wanda or somebody creating this reality.
Mm-hmm.
Then, like I said, hiding your real life pregnancy under a coat and a bowl of fruit and the flowers. That's a TV nod to like everything. Also, really interesting when the stork, when the stork appears, it's all of a sudden it's in red. It's like a poof of red. It's like poof, and it's in red, which symbolizes Wanda's magic. Now, we know that Wanda is not going to do that.
Yeah.
Especially during an inconvenient time with Geraldine. So that leads me to believe that's Billy that's doing that.
Yeah.
So, so that's really was sweet. Callback. And then, as I said before, you can't make it out of the small town, which is why the Dr. Nielsen is kind of like, okay, we're not going to do it. I think it just it's set up. You know how you have that comedic effect where the doctor's going to go out of town and you have to go and chase the doctor and then bring him back. I think that was all for like comedic effect, even though he knew that he's not technically going to be able to go anywhere.
Yeah.
So he's just playing the part that he has to play. So that could be something there. And it's really interesting too when she starts singing the lullaby and Sarkovian. Sorry. When she starts singing the lullaby in Sarkovian, that's kind of the first time that she spoke Sarkovian since Pietro's death.
Wow.
So it's just a very interesting thing that it just seems very natural that just came right when she had the babies, where it's like all of the memories start rushing to her.
Yeah.
With her brother and Sarkovia and, with that. So I thought it was really, really sweet. And then as we already know, Geraldine's been wearing the sword logo for like ever. And this is a really interesting part about Geraldine. She came around in the second episode, which was the 60s, which, that's when we had more of the integration situation going on in real life, also with the TV as well. So I kind of like that part that she came in during there. But it was very interesting. When she first meets Wanda, she doesn't know who she is. In the sense she doesn't know who herself is. Which is why when Wanda's like, "What's your name?" She's like, and then she says, "Gerald." When the second that she touches her, she says Geraldine.
Yeah.
So I was wondering if it was Wanda who's able to kind of control everyone's made up memories. I don't know. Maybe because she touched her. Then she said, "Oh, Geraldine."
Yeah.
And she was wearing that necklace in the previous episode. I believe the previous episode. So it's interesting. And remember, Sword is a counterpart to Shield
Mm-hmm.
that deals with the extraterrestrial threats to the world and is based in space. So who's also in space? Captain America. Not Captain America, Captain Marvel.
Captain
Sorry.
Marvel. Yep.
So, yes. So then in episode 3, we already know that, Agnes is wearing a necklace, but we see more of it. It's kind of like a nice brooch that she's wearing. This is a callback to the comics, where it looks like it's 3 witches. So, and we know that Agnes is a witch.
Okay.
And then also, if we're going to do number 3, then you have Wanda and her 2 kids. That's also kind of a 3.
Yep.
And then they run into Agatha. She's always there. So, yeah, I thought that was really interesting. Also, if you look, I don't have a picture of this. I should have had a picture of this. The slides are very complicated. Anyway, there's a nod to the Grim Reaper. And if you look on episode 2, there was a helmet that kind of had the Grim Reaper on it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And if you look at Tom King's Vision comics, Vision tried to lead a nice, normal, happy life, but he ended up fighting the Grim Reaper.
Oh, whoa.
And
wow.
also, we know in this world, Grim Reaper to us signifies death.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
So maybe he's
Interesting.
fighting time. Again, death, time. He had this time stone. Technically, y'all want to say he's dead. I'm still sticking with he's not dead. Wanda don't know that he's actually alive. I will fight anybody. Vision is alive.
Yeah.
So, as we've seen, also lastly, when Geraldine is thrown out of Westview by Wanda, when she's like literally the Lion King toss,
Yep.
like get out, and she like kicks her out like a football field. All the cars and everything that's surrounding her has the Sword logo.
Yeah. So when she got kicked out, you didn't think of Jazzy Jeff getting thrown out of the Fresh Prince of
That's amazing. The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. That's actually amazing. I did not thought of that. I thought of like the old memes that people would do of the Lion King when he raises Simba in the air and then he just beep and throws it. But that is actually wonderful. I like that very much so. So that's kind of what we have going on there. And then lastly, not sure if you want to talk about it, but we have the twins and what the twins actually signify and how it's a callback to when Kevin Feige gave the interview a while back ago saying that there's going to be LGBTQ plus characters moving forward. So remember back when he said he had an interview, what he was doing, and he was asking him about, inclusion and what's going on with that. And he said there will be LGBTQ people involved. And that's when, I don't remember if this was like during Endgame, because remember there was like that snippet where one of the Russos came in.
Yeah.
And it was after the snap, and he was talking about his husband. He played the role in The Counselor.
Yeah.
Where Captain America was like a grief therapist.
Yeah, I remember that. Yep.
Where he was holding meetings. So it was like, oh, is that what they mean? No. And then my brain was like, Falcon and Winter Soldier. Nope. So then I was like, oh, this is going to be really interesting. Because remember, we have the Eternals. And we do know that one of the characters, he is gay. And you will see his partner. And it will be a nice little loving situation. And I was like, oh, this is really nice. But then we had WandaVision. And we have Billy and Tommy. And for those who don't know, this is like a big major thing. People are calling it a game changer. Because as we already know, they're not going to stay little goobers. They're going to be full-blown, hopefully, teenagers. And this sets up the Young Avengers. Sorry. So we do know that we don't really know much about their whole existence because it's a mystery. Vision is technically a synthetic. He's artificial.
Yeah.
He's a robot. While Wanda is human with powers that was given to her by Strucker. I don't want to know. I'm not questioning it. We have some babies. We do know that the whole show they was getting her to get pregnant for the children.
Yeah.
But anyway, those are the parents, as far as we concern. Yay. So, like I said, one relates to William Shakespeare, and Tommy is the all-American boy.
Mhm.
And there's a bunch, that goes on. What ends up happening is if you go back to 1985 Vision and Scarlet Witch Volume 2,
Mhm.
Wanda is channeled by a whole lot of magic into herself to create life. So the magic itself creates life.
Mm.
And this is a child that she and Vision desperately wanted, even though in the TV show we don't really know that they desperately want it, but they just kind of like, yeah, it would be nice. All American family, we need some family.
Mhm.
So by the end of that episode, well, not that episode, sorry, the end of the 12-issue limited series comic, they ended up having the twins, right? Now, in the comics, Tommy is named after Phineas Thornton Horton, who is the scientist who created Vision's android body back in World War II.
Wow.
So this is all the comics. Obviously, they changed all of this for the TV show. And then we have William, sorry, I'm dying here, where he instead is not named after William Shakespeare. He is named after Simon Williams, who is the Avenger whose brain patterns were used to bring Vision to life.
Wow.
So, yay. So that their names right there have great significance. And as we already know in the movie version, Vision, however, was created by Ultron. He is Jarvis. He is also the son of Iron Man.
Yep.
And you could say the son of Thor, since Thor literally electrocuted him to life. And Bruce Banner, who was the brains behind the operation as well. I'm pretty sure Shuri could have just did it just by herself. But whatever. So, anyway, Billy and Tommy, we're going to stick with those names instead. Now, what ends up happening, 4 years later, we get to Avengers West Coast, number 52, right? And it is revealed that Billy and Tommy were actually the result of Wanda experiencing a false pregnancy and using her own powers to kind of conjure the twins into being. And over time, the spell wore off. But the twins actually popped out of existence when Wanda wasn't around. It's comic book world. I don't know. Now, it is also revealed that in order to give her wish of twins to bring back to life, that she ends up snatching 2 shards of the soul of what is his name? Mustefo? I'm probably mispronouncing that.
I know who you're talking about.
You know who I'm talking about? He is basically the devil.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Which, remember, is a callback to episode 2? When they was all meeting at the pool, and she said the devil's in the details.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Wow. Wow.
So in the comics, though, Mustefo, which I'm pretty sure I'm butchering to death. I'm sorry, I'm dyslexic. But anyway, he was able to reclaim those shards, and Wanda and Vision's children disappeared for good. So then, what ended up happening? Wanda's witchcraft, Agatha Harkness ends up becoming her mentor in the comics. And that she ends up casting a spell on Wanda to make her forget that she ever had children in the first place.
Okay.
Sadness. Then we get to 2005, right? And this is the Young Avengers series, which we know that Marvel is building up their Young Avengers. Okay? We know this. We have this with Hawkeye. Remember Kate Bishop?
Yep.
We know this. What's going on with the other children? Remember Iron Man, Morgan Stark? I am pretty sure she's going to be a teenager too. And you have Miss Marvel. She's a teenager. So they are building up to Young Avengers. So in the 2005 Young Avengers comic book series, okay, we have basically, it introduces us to the characters of Speed, who is Tommy. Remember, he's fast. And then there is an Asgardian. And Asgardian would soon change his name to Wiccan. Wiccan is Billy. So everyone thought that Billy was just a Scarlet Witch fan, when he actually was the reincarnated son, and that Tommy, a stranger he just met, was his reincarnated twin brother. So Wiccan and Tommy. Now, pay attention. Um, Billy ends up having powers just like Scarlet Witch, and like I said, um, the speed guy, Tommy, he's able to run just as fast like his brother Pietro. Well, not his
Yeah.
brother. I'm sorry. It would be his uncle. Sorry. Yeah, uncle. Anyway, so in 2010 Avengers, the Children's Crusade, which was a limited series, the Wiccan and Speed, like I said, they're a reincarnation of the other babies that was snatched away from Mastivo, which I'm sure I mispronounced again. Now they are teenagers, and remember, they are still around and they're still alive, and they're functioning. Wiccan and Speed, they like ended up becoming huge fans. They joined the Young Avengers. However, here's the part where I'm getting to a very long part to get to the part of the first story. Wiccan is Marvel's very first gay superhero,
Ah, okay.
and he is like the lead. He doesn't end up becoming like, the supporting role. He is a major player, and he is the forefront of Marvel Comics. So, yay.
Interesting.
So this goes back to, remember when Kevin Feige kept saying, we have gay characters? It wasn't just Eternals. It was WandaVision.
And also the Thor movie. We have what's the character's name? I can't think for some reason.
Oh.
Valkyrie will find her love interest in
Oh,
the next Thor movie. Yeah.
Yes. Valkyrie. She is gay as well. I didn't think of that. So
yeah. But this one, you said this is a front and center character.
Front and center. He's main part. He's not a side character or anyone's sidekick. He's there.
Yeah.
He's out. He's gay. He's happy. So yay!
That'd be interesting.
That would be.
They have as you said, they have a big vision, so to speak, for the future of these characters.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
They do. They have a very big vision. So
interesting.
Cool. I'm not sure if they will be cast in the Young Avengers. I'm waiting to see if we get to see them as full-blown teenagers in the show, because again, time is really weird.
Yeah.
But this is going to be interesting. And then remember, we already have a cast where we know that, people are coming back. Like I said, Kate Bishop is being played by Haley Steinfeld, and she's in a Hawkeye. Catherine Newton, she is Casey Lang from Ant-Man and the Wasp. She'll be in Quantumanium.
Yeah.
Then there is someone who I can't pronounce, but the last name is Gomez, and they will play American Chavez in Doctor Strange in the Multi-Universe of Madness, which also stars Wanda. She'll be in it as well, as we already know. And, Doctor Strange is obviously there because it's his movie. And so they're setting up this whole wave of Young Avengers. So this is really good. This is really something to look forward to.
Sounds interesting for sure.
So that would be everything. Unless you have something. Yep.
There's one question that I do have to ask.
Okay.
And this is unrelated to WandaVision.
Oh.
But it is equally important. What are your thoughts on the recent news that the Black Widow movie has once again been delayed? And how does this impact the phase moving forward?
Okay, see, what happened is I spoke to there's an interview on the website. I'll leave the link where I spoke to Kevin Feige. It was the weirdest interview because he can't answer anything because obviously you're not going to tell everyone everything.
Yeah.
But he did specify that their movies are made for the movie theater experience, and their TV shows are specifically written for TV. He does not want that to translate over. Me personally, I know many people are excited for Black Widow, and I know people want them, to see this movie. I could care less.
Yeah.
I mean this and no disrespect at all. I think here's the thing. I think when I see the movie, I will actually end up caring about the character, Black Widow.
Yeah.
But during that entire run of those MCU movies, I did not give a darn. So that whole thing of her sacrificing herself
Yeah.
or what was it, Endgame? I didn't care.
Well, I fully understand that. The reason why I asked the question is because I want to know, does this mean the other movies are also going to get delayed? Because I'm trying to figure out what is the
Yeah.
timeline of these other movies.
I think right now for them, they're concentrating on their TV shows.
Okay.
So what we do know is we have Winter Soldier, the Falcon and Winter Soldier.
Yep, in March.
It's coming in March.
Mhm.
They're already filming Ms. Marvel. Thoughts and prayers. We have Loki. Remember, Loki is
I can't
coming
wait
up.
for Loki. Yeah. Mhm.
So we'll have to just wait and see. Remember, we also have What If, which is the animated version of what happens in, what if Captain America ends up, I don't know, becoming Peggy. I don't know. But,
Yeah.
So we do have that coming. So I think it will be enough content to tie us over. But I do think until they figure out what they're going to do strategy-wise, now I'm not saying that his word is final.
Yeah.
But for right now, I don't see that happening. And I don't think until they can figure out this whole movie situation and vaccine situation, I don't think we're going to we're going to just have to just keep waiting. Because remember, they delayed a lot of movies.
Oh yeah.
They delayed Morbius, which nobody cares about. Even before there was a pandemic, no one just cared about that movie. But we all know that ties. Yep.
I received a lot of angry text messages asking me why was all these movies delayed. So that's why I figured, I mean, obviously the safety of the public, that has to be at the forefront of all of this.
Mm-hmm.
But I think people was questioning why this was done when they saw what happened with Wonder Woman and how the movie is on HBO Max now for a couple more days, but it's also in the theaters.
I still haven't watched it again. I watched it one time. I was like, oh yeah, it's still there. Have you seen Lockdown?
I've seen that.
Yeah, and I was like, oh, yeah, but it's staring at me. Would you like to watch Wonder Woman 1984 again? And I'm like, I'll get around to it. I don't know what to tell you.
Yeah. So we'll see what happens.
We'll see.
The only comment I will make, you mentioned Lockdown. I really hope that actor returns in the Doctor Strange sequel because they never did anything with that villain. They never did anything with the villain yet. So that whole movie, that was the same actor.
It feels like 5 years or 10,000 years since we saw Doctor Strange.
Yeah.
That's right, because at the end, he lost his power.
Yep.
He wasn't killed, but that's when the actor whose name I should know, Mads. That's when he came and took everyone's power.
Yeah.
I have to watch the movie again.
But the storyline they were building of that movie was that this guy, he was good friends with Doctor Strange, building him up as a villain. So I hope that he is somehow involved in the next movie because I haven't heard anything about the next movie yet. So I would hope that this guy is in the movie because I like what they were doing with the character. I'm curious to see what happens with him.
No, remember he went around and he was trying to kill all of the other wizards?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So I can see that working with it now. They opened up the multiverse, which people are arguing it's Wanda who ends up opening the multiverse.
Oh, well.
So through that, he could travel through the multiverse and start killing off more wizards.
Uh-oh.
Maybe. It's a possibility. We don't know. So that should be interesting. And remember, Doctor Strange is a mentor to Peter Parker.
Yep.
And Peter Parker in the third one is going to have what? Multiverses.
Yeah.
Remember, they're bringing back everyone who has ever been a part of the whole universe except for...
That's going to be amazing.
so far.
Unfortunately, I guess we have to wait until next year for that movie.
I don't know. We're already in like year 20. I don't know anymore. What is a movie theater at this point? So, yeah, we'll just have to wait and see with everything.
Yeah, we'll see.
But it should be interesting. I thoroughly enjoyed this episode.
Absolutely.
I look forward to the fourth one. Yes. So we will see how that works, how the fourth one works. Will we get there's been theories. Will we get everything from Monica's perspective, from Sword's perspective? Remember, we have AIM that's also there. So, yeah.
Well, it is 10 episodes, right, for the season?
It's 9.
It's 9 episodes.
Think that this one was like the closing of the first act.
Okay. So the next episode is the 80s.
Mm-hmm.
Episode 5 will be the 90s.
Mm-hmm.
2000s, episode 6. 2010 in episode 7. 2020, episode 9. And then I guess the future in the 9th episode.
Maybe. I didn't even think of the future. Ooh. 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 Yeah. That should be good because I don't know what year they was in when everybody came back after the snap.
Yeah. I don't remember either. Because I thought it was the current time for us, which was the same, but I don't remember that either. So I have to go back and find that information.
Yes. Oh my! I'm excited. That should really be fun now. Yay!
Yeah.
So, yep. I had a great time talking about this.
Definitely.
Come back next week. We will talk about more WandaVision episode 4. So it should be fun. Thank you to everyone who watched us. Any parting words, Mr. Bailey Jr.?
Oh, no. Thank everybody for checking out the show. Definitely continue to stay safe. Wash your hands. Wear a mask if you decide to go outside. Yes. And, of course, keep watching WandaVision and all the good shows on TV right now because there's a lot of good content out there to watch.
Very true. So thank you once again, and we'll see you later.